Rolling today. What's up, Instagram? What's up, Facebook? What's up, LinkedIn? What's up, YouTube? We're everywhere now. Okay, we got the new software, the new platform. Let's go. Today is something that is dear and near to my heart. I want to talk about cotton candy conversations. And a lot of people ask me, dude, what do you mean? What's cotton candy conversation? I've heard this term. I've saw you post about it. I've heard you say, tell some stories behind it. And that's what I'm here to do today. I'm here to advise and chat about what I call a cotton candy conversation. So, what is a cotton candy conversation? A cotton candy conversation is a bunch of fluff. It's a conversation that typically happens with most interactions, typically happens at the start of most relationships, if those relationships um, actually turn into something of benefit for both sides. But in most cases, cotton candy conversation puts you in a situation where you are just like everybody else. Let that sink for a second. You're just like everybody else. I don't think anybody in the world wants to be just like everybody else. So that's why this topic is so important to me, cotton candy conversations. So a cotton candy conversation is just a bunch of fluff. There's no true detail. There's no true opening up. There's no true vulnerability. There's no real rawness. It's us trying to engage and build a relationship, but we're not engaging at the level that the person wants or we probably want, right? So how do you have deep conversation? How do you make deep connection? And how do you pivot yourself from some of these cotton candy conversations? Again, a cotton candy conversation isn't bad. It's not a negative thing, but what I think it is and where I believe it is you're missing an opportunity. You're missing an opportunity to make a true relationship with someone. You're missing the opportunity to really dive deep into their life and to learn about them, right? Whenever we're networking, whether it's at Impact Effect 23 next month, whether it's at a coffee shop, whether it's over the phone or via text message, how do you separate yourself from the norm? How do you put yourself in a position where you are unique and what you're conversing about is different than the other 15 to 20 people that they've spoke to that day, right? We all probably believe, because it's been said a million times, I think I posted this on Facebook in 2019, relationships over transactions, right? So we all understand relationships are important. We all understand relationships are rocket ships. But how do you value the relationship and how do you have a unique experience where you actually listen, where you actually care, and where you actually provide value to what that person may be looking for or seeking out of that conversation? Not every conversation goes like this, and not every conversation has to be deep with an intent for deep connection, right? We can be in the coffee shop and just feeling like chatting or telling someone we love their watch or their shoes. We don't necessarily need deep conversation, but how do we put ourselves in a position where not every conversation is cotton candy conversation, where it's not just fluff? It's not just, hey, how are you? Hey, how's your day? Oh, what do you do for work? What do you like to do on the weekends? Right? I call that the Ford method. F being family. You ask about someone's family. Do you have kids? Are you married? You ask about their occupation, right? You talk about what they do for work, what career they're in, what industry. You talk about FO, recreation, R. You talk about recreation. What do you like to do for fun? What do you like to do on the weekends? Do you hike? Do you do this? Do you like sports? How about those Titans? We won a game finally. I have all those Titan fans out there. We went into OT yesterday, right? And then you get to the D, the dreams. So if you're using the Ford method, what I've realized in my experience is FOR, family, occupation, recreation, it's cotton candy. Everybody's asking those questions. The reality is no one gets to the D. No one gets to dreams. What are you looking to do in life? What's the biggest thing you're looking to accomplish? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Who do you want to help? Why do you want to help those people? What type of people do you want to help? What's the reason behind wanting to help those folks? Right? There's so many opportunities to have deep connection. And again, not every opportunity needs to be deep connection. Cotton candy conversations are great, but cotton candy conversations don't really get to the nitty gritty of understanding what moves that person, why they do what they do, where they're at today, where they want to go, what their dreams are, what their legacy looks like, how they want to impact individuals, how they want to impact our community, how they want to impact their business, how they want to impact other people's businesses, how they want to help folks, how they want to be of assistance, how they want to be a resource. Those are the deep conversations that I have had that have allowed me to grow. They've allowed me to build a deep connection, have alignment in that conversation, right? Like we go into so many conversations and we really walk out of those conversations, whether it's at an event like Impact Effect, whether it's at a networking event, whether it's at a coffee shop, and we don't really know anything about the person. We know exactly what they do for work, which is a title. That's it. Title. Jim, what do you do? I throw events. You know nothing about Jim, right? And that's fine. Those conversations are fine. But if you're looking to align, if you're looking to understand people's core values, if you're looking to understand what they're doing in life, why they're doing it, and you ask these questions and you talk about dreams and goals and where they want to go and the why, right? Why do you want to do that? How do you plan on doing that? Where did you learn that from? What story or what moment in your life pushed you into this realm of creating this amazing goal, right? Having those conversations are not cotton candy. They're not the fluff. They're not the conversations that 98% of human beings have. And that's okay. This is not to belittle those conversations. This is to identify the difference in some of the conversations you have moving forward in the future. I had a conversation this morning with someone. I had no intent to learn more about them. None. My headspace was not focused on building a relationship, and that's fine. But I was cordial and I was nice, and I know that they sell insurance. Cool. Something wrong with that. But I wasn't in that right element to have a deeper conversation, which is totally fine. My whole point of bringing up that is the reality behind not every conversation has to be a deep conversation. But if you're going to go to an event, if you're going to spend time away from your friends, time away from your family, significant other, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever you do, whatever is important in your life, to go network, to really understand people and make connection, then I really advise you to stop having cotton candy conversations. And how do you do that? You ask people deep, deep questions. What do you want to do in life? What's your purpose? What do you think you're meant to do? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? If you had all the money in the world, what would you do with it tomorrow? Like these are questions that dive deep into people's core value, right? They dive deep into what they're aligned with, what's important to them in their world today and in their future. And mostly when you start asking those conversations, what you learn is 5,000 things you never would have learned about that person, right? If someone says, hey, this happened to me in the past, then you know that they've gone through hardship. You can probably relate. Everybody's life is not perfect, and we all go through hardship. We all go through seasons, right? So now you know at what point did that person have a hardship that caused them to make a change, to cause them to find their purpose, that caused them to do what they're doing, to create the goals that they've created on the path that they are walking today, right? Now you know, okay, maybe something happened in their family. Family is important to them. Let's talk more about family. Is all your family here? Right? But it's a different conversation than, the F in Ford is, oh, do you have a spouse? Do you have this? Right? We got to family, but it started with understanding a story and the pinpoint of where their dream is and what they're looking to do. So, of course, you want to talk to people about family and what's important to them, but how do you get to those conversations and have it intrinsically deep within that person to tell you, to be vulnerable, right? I was doing a webinar today with Don Warren, and one of the things I talked about was how do you pivot these conversations if it if you're not going in the direction of a deep connection, or someone isn't talking about their dreams, or they're reserved, or it's awkward and they don't want to open up, right? So you're having a conversation, you're having a cotton candy conversation, and you ask a question, well, what's your dreams? And that person says, well, I don't know what my dreams are, or I'm not entirely sure. And it's just blank. And you're like, oh, I don't know what to do. Or how do I pivot this conversation? And then now I'm feeling awkward. Now my cheeks are getting rosy. It's a little weird. It's a little awkward. And what I said to Don today was, whenever I'm in a situation where I'm trying to connect deeply with someone and they're reserved, or they're just not there, there's something else going on in their brain, whatever the reason is, right? Because we're not always on, ladies and gentlemen. I talked about cotton candy conversation this morning. The guy who talks about deep conversation, I'm not always on. So for me, it was really important to understand how to transition out of the how to transition the conversation out of cotton candy into deep connection, and how to do that when you're not really getting back the answers at the level you want, or they're not really opening up into some of these deep seated questions that you're asking. And what I told Don was this: whenever I'm in that awkward situation, whenever I'm in that situation where I'm trying to connect, I'm trying to go deeper with someone, and we're just not hitting, right? They're not opening up. I become vulnerable. I become vulnerable. Vulnerability opens the gates for me to get real and raw, and to talk about something that I'm vulnerable about, in hopes that that breaks down the wall that that person's putting up, and allowing them to be more vulnerable, right? Because when you ask someone what your purpose is or what your dreams are, and you met them 3 minutes ago, shit, 3 seconds ago, you met them, um, and a lot of people aren't going to just open up and pour it into them. A lot of people don't know what their purpose is. A lot of people don't think about what their dreams are. A lot of people don't think about their legacy, and that's okay. It's totally fine, right? But that person is someone that you should help and you should push into starting to think about those things, because it's important to understand where you're going before you get there, right? If you have a GPS but you don't have the address to put in, the GPS doesn't work. It doesn't get you where you're trying to go. You need to know the address. You need to know the end result. You need to put yourself in a position where you know where you're going, and hell, you're gonna have to figure it out how to get there, because we don't have a GPS in life, as much as I wish we did. But the reality of that, you need to know where you're going. So I take that opportunity to really just help and advise, and I become vulnerable. I tell the story during the vulnerability where I'm trying to break the cotton candy conversation. I'm not getting the response I want. I just go into full vulnerability, you know, and that can be, and I take the onus of the awkwardness on myself. I think that's super important. You've got to take that awkwardness as it's your fault, not push it back on the other person you're having a conversation with, right? Because we're not here to point the finger or play the blame game. We're here to have deep conversation and have deep connection. So what I do is I talk about a vulnerable situation, and I call out the fact that we're not connecting immediately. So I say, oh, man, I appreciate the conversation. Um, you know, it's not, it's a little awkward. I can feel that. It's because of me. To be honest with you, I just lost a big sale in my business, and, I'm feeling a little crushed, and I'm out here today to connect with people and meet people. So the awkwardness is probably from me and my energy, but I just want to let you know I lost the biggest sale in my life yesterday. Um, and then we start having a conversation where I'm super vulnerable, I'm super honest, and then I flip it back and have that conversation with them like, hey man, anything happened anything happened to you recently in your business and, that you really needed and it didn't happen, or, you suffering from a major loss that, in the last couple of weeks, I feel like a lot of people are. And that gives the opportunity after you've been vulnerable and dove deep into your life to give them the opportunity to share with you. Now, some people may say, hey, everything's great. My life's amazing. Nothing bad in business has happened. But I guarantee you that no matter what stage of business someone is in, everything's not perfect and something's gone wrong. Right. And if they don't want to share it from a business side, maybe it's something personal. But to be able to transition that conversation when you're in a position where where you're trying to go deeper and they're not allowing it, take the awkwardness on yourself. Use that opportunity to share something and be vulnerable. You know, I was having a conversation literally this morning, and my wife's on here. She joined. Love you, babe. But I was telling someone who we just weren't driving. I'm like, oh man, it's my fault. My wife's stepmom passed away, and I'm sad about that. She's got to travel out of the state, and there's just a lot going on, and it's probably why I'm not the best. Well, that person told me about how they were suffering from a loss from like 3-4 months ago. We bonded on that, and then we got brought it back to the dreams and what they're looking to do in their business. And I made a joke. I'm like, all right, enough with the negative stuff. Like, I need to know what you're gonna do in life and how you're gonna crush it, right? And it was boom, right into it. Hey man, my dream is to help, these type of people, and this is what's going on. And the reason why I did this was because this happened to me 5 years ago. I had a near life death experience, and I realized, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I'm spending all this time, I'm doing all these things, and what's it for? Boom. Transition the cotton candy conversation by being vulnerable, taking ownership of my vulnerability, saying I'm the one that's making this maybe a little awkward, even though they weren't giving me back what most people will. Most people will share their dreams. Most people will share their purpose. Most people will share what their big goal is, how they want to impact others and change the world. But for those folks that aren't, there's nothing wrong with that. We just got to be a little bit more vulnerable, be a little bit more real, and be a little bit more open. And I believe by doing that, you show a sign of humanity, and you show a sign of strength, and you show a sign of leadership, right? Because we don't know what's going on in that person's life. We don't know if they're suffering from a major loss. We don't know that they came to this live event to meet someone, because if they don't pick up a client today, they have to close their business. They have to pivot. They have to go back to the corporate world. They have to choose a different career path. They have to make a decision, right? So we don't know what people are coming into, but by us being vulnerable, by us transitioning and pivoting that cotton candy conversation into something of deep connection, it allows us to really make that connection, and it allows us to transition out of a lot of cotton candy conversations. So, again, just to recap for everybody that joined, I'm not saying cotton candy conversations are terrible and you're a loser and you must have all these deep conversations and learn people's history and hear their stories and talk through, their dreams and where they want to go. Not every conversation needs to be like that. But I guarantee you would enjoy more conversations where you can find out if people align with you, if people have the same core values, if people have the same passions. And once you get into those type of conversations, you can really make an impact on people. You can really help people. Because if someone comes to me, says my goal is X, and this and this happened, and this changed my life, and this is why I'm doing it, and yada yada yada, like, now I'm more aware, and I want to help because I know why they're doing it and I know where it's coming from. It's coming from the heart, right? It's not just to make a buck. And that's what aligns with my core values. So by having these conversations, it actually puts me in a position to help folks more, to help them in ways that are beneficial, not just BS like, oh, you need an accountant? I got a good accountant. Saved me $10,000 this year on my taxes. They didn't say they needed an accountant. They didn't say that that was a major problem, right? But if they say, my dream is to do X, Y, and Z, and they need, this person, and I have them in my sphere, in my group, in my community, and I know that their core values align with mine, and I'm excited for what they're building, and I'm excited for what they're doing, and I want them to accomplish their dreams. Now I have opportunity to help increase the probability. I have opportunity to help and maybe make a reference or an introduction. And those things are important. And those things are where I bring it back to that relationship over transactions, right? Because I'm now helping them with their dream, and of course, we can do business together, right? That person who sells insurance, that's what they're doing today. And we can do business together because now I know that their goal is to help the homeless because they were once homeless, right? They lost their house, they were homeless. They're selling insurance to use the money in insurance as a tool to help more homeless people in Nashville. That's a cause I can get behind, and that's someone that I will give my insurance business to because they're using that money to help benefit the homeless, which is important to them, which is part of their core values, which align with my heart. So by transitioning that conversation of, do you have family? Where are you from? You sell insurance, this is what you do for a career. I now transition that conversation, found deep connection, see their heart, see where they're aligned, see why they're doing what they're doing, and what the bigger picture is, the bigger dream, the bigger goal. Now I can align with that person, build deep connection, and use resources to help them with their goal and also help them with their business because they're leveraging that money to accomplish a dream and a massive goal. So again, just to recap, when you're having some of these very cotton candy fluff conversations, what do you do? Where'd you move from? Yada, yada, yada. You got family. Transition that into a deep connection, transition that into asking people what their dreams are, what they're looking to do in life, where they see themselves in 5, 10 years, why they're looking to do that, what legacy they want to leave. Those are all amazing questions to build deep connection. And when you are stuck in a conversation where you may not be getting the flow or the answers or the vulnerability when you ask these questions, revert back to yourself. Blame that awkwardness on you. Tell a story. Be vulnerable and open up that opportunity for that other person to be vulnerable. Because sometimes people are scared to tell you their dreams. Sometimes people don't even think about their dreams. Sometimes people are just caught up in making the next phone call and selling the next insurance policy. Who knows? You know? So leverage the opportunity for being vulnerable, help transition, deep connection, deep conversation if you get stuck. And start today, start tomorrow. Just start. Start asking people what their dreams are, where they want to go in life, why they want to go there, how they're going to get there, where that idea came from, why it's important to them, and see how you can help and forge meaningful, deep connection and conversation. So I just want to share that with everybody today because I talk a lot about cotton candy conversations. And someone the other day requested, how do you, when someone's not giving you back that answer to follow up on or dive deep into and really build a relationship and conversation, what do you do to pivot? So again, I want to share how I pivot. I use vulnerability. I become vulnerable. I say the awkwardness is on me because something had recently happened, and I share that. And that can be family related, that can be business related, that can be anything that you feel that is going to open up the opportunity for that person to be vulnerable back with you. So thank y'all for hanging today. I appreciate you for joining the live, and go have some deep conversations. Go have some amazing conversations because you don't need to be a rocket scientist to use relationships as rocket ships. Cheers. Thanks for joining.